All right, I believe we are in here. What up, everybody? What up? What up? What up, guys? Do me a favor and put a one down into the chat if you guys are hearing everything correctly. Uh-oh, I see the families in the building. Okay. I see the families in the building. I'm over here looking at how y'all YouTube names different from your Discord names. You know what I mean? Guys, let me know. Put a one down into the chat. Okay, I see the ones down into the building. All right, what's good, everybody? Listen, happy Monday, happy Monday, happy Monday. As you guys already know, we like to do on a bi-weekly basis this Man Monday or Masculinity Mondays, this Manhood Monday. And really, the goal of that is to interview and speak to key members within our inner circle community, as well as those that that I can invite in to get their perspectives as well. Recently on YouTube, this brother has been blowing up. Okay, he's recently gotten to a debacle of some sort with a lady that tried to come out for his head, but he's holding himself like a G. What I tell you is that being a content creator and then watching different content creators bubble, the first time that I saw this brother's content, I said, he has something. He truly has something. So I invited him back here to have a private conversation with the community. Now, let me also say this is that for those that want to come up and eventually ask questions, I leave a link down into the inspiration channel of the Discord server of what that StreamYard link is. I already see some people that's down there already. Shout out to y'all. But we're going to go through this conversation here first. Okay. So listen, let me stop prefacing it. Let me stop talking about the brother. Let's get him to come up here and to introduce himself. All right. So without further ado, what's good, brother?
There he is. How are you doing, MTR?
Listen, it's an absolute pleasure to bring you into the space, into the server, to have this conversation. How are you doing today, brother?
Listen, I am doing fantastic and really just want to thank you for having me out. You know, I've been watching. I was telling you, you know, this behind the scenes that I was telling you that how I watch you rise up and you're just killing the game and how much work and dedication that you put towards it. And now, you know, look at where you're at and all your subscribers. And then little YouTubers like me, we see that and we're like, man, we'll never be able to get there. It's so far away. But I mean, people like you, young brothers, are blazing the path. So I just really appreciate you giving me a little bit of time and having me out here.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. You know, I'm calling it right now. I'm seeing 100,000 in the next 2 months, maybe 3 months for you. So you're not gonna be talking about this little YouTuber stuff any much longer in about 3 or so months.
Please.
People are gonna look at you like you're the veteran in about 3 to 4 months or so.
That's
You know,
so crazy.
and speaking about that, because I've heard you sprinkle at this, right? Because often on the channel, what I try to tell the young brothers is specific to your grind, and it's not necessarily about so much as your failures as what you do with your failures, how you pick it up, and you kind of move forward. I believe that you started YouTube prior to January, but you didn't really start to bubble into the January-ish time frame. Can you speak about your first entrance into the space and suffering through being a lowly content creator and not getting any views, and then kind of how that materialized into where you are at today?
Oh yeah, it was it was so terrible. I started YouTube, I guess early last year is when I put up my first video on Tom Brady, and it was absolutely terrible. You know, he was talking about he was having some marital issues with his wife.
Hmm.
And just to kind of back up for a second, for those who don't know me, I am a 20-year divorce attorney here in Atlanta. So I know a little bit about marital problems, right? And you know, around that time, March, April, May is when the country kind of slipped into what we were dealing with last year, still kind of dealing with this year.
Hmm.
And so the courts ended up closing down. I said, you know what? I'll just start a YouTube channel. It's not like we're doing really anything else. And I will try to get some of the information that I have in my mind out to the young brothers because
Hmm.
some of you guys are making such silly mistakes, and it's costing you so much. And you're not doing it because you're stupid. You're doing it because no one has just told you the right way to handle yourself in terms of the legal sphere. You know, your daddy might not even been in the home, or he never sat you down and said, hey, let me tell you what you need to do. Lord knows your mom ain't gonna tell you nothing about this. Your uncle, you know, he might have got divorced, but he don't want to tell you because it's private business. And, you know, we wash our laundry in our own home, right? And so a lot of guys, you know, when they're 18, 22, 25, you know, you're just cast out there with not a lot of knowledge.
Yeah.
And so some of you guys are making some basic mistakes. And so I said, well, listen, I'm just going to take this information that I usually charge for, and in my office I have to charge for it, but in my head, I don't have to charge for it. I can just cut on a camera and give it to you for free. And so that's kind of how it started. And I was making videos about child support and how corrupt the system was and how unfair it was. Making videos about family law and divorces and the easy ways that you can, the easy steps that you can take to avoid getting so screwed. Some of you guys, and I've represented you for so long. And little stuff, you say, oh, you know, I wish I would have known this 7 years ago. I wish I would have known this 10 years ago. Well, that's how I started my channel. And then, you know, I made, you know, and I wasn't really dedicated to the channel like I should have been. And all of last year, I only made 11 videos. And it was so hard. You know, after my third or fourth video, I started getting this perfectionist type of complex. Yeah. And I was editing my videos so much, and I was spending so much time scripting every single word. I was buying all of this equipment. I bought teleprompters. I bought so much, and it ended up taking me anywhere from 15 to 20 to 30 hours just to make one video, which is one of the reasons why, you know, you're trying to be an attorney and, you know, it takes you 30 hours, which is like almost like a week to do a video. You know, I was pushing out like 2 videos, 1 video a month, and my channel was going nowhere because, you know, I only had 11 videos up and I was about to quit. And then O'Shea Duke Jackson came in, and I had about 1,000 subscribers in January of this year. I had 1,000, and he had me on his show. And then 24 hours later, I had another 1,000. So then I had 2,000, and then he had me on again, and I got 500. He got me on again. I had 700. And that's what kind of gave me the momentum to keep going, because I was going to quit. I was doing everything so wrong. My videos were way too highly edited by me. So it took longer than it should have. And the quality wasn't that good because I'm not an editor, right? That I had to teach myself how to do all that stuff. And I was getting in my own way. Then I discovered these damn live streams where I didn't have to edit at all. All I had to do, yes, you know, I was like, okay, let me do OBS. And I tried OBS and I couldn't figure it out. And then I got Ecamm, and that worked really well. And I would just do the Ecamm, and people would ask me questions, and I would sit back like this, and I would just answer them. So someone, you know, a Mark would say, oh, you know, I'm having problems with my baby mama. What should I do? And I would sit back and answer his question. Or somebody would say, oh, you know, I'm having problems with child support. What should I do? And I would sit back, and I would do that starting at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and then go till 1 or 2. And then I got the idea, well, why don't I bring people up? And so then I tried to do that with Ecamm. It's a little bit cumbersome, and they got time limits. So that's when I switched to StreamYard, where you just hit a button and you bring somebody up, and there are no time limits. Man, and I never look back. So now I do these long live streams, and I really found a passion for YouTube. So much so that I've actually started another channel where now I help other people start their YouTube channels, because I'm fascinated by the algorithm. I'm fascinated about watching people's ascension into YouTube. Even if you've only got, you know, 30 subscribers or 212 subscribers. I remember what it's like to look at your phone every morning and you wake up. The first thing you do before you check Twitter, before you check ID, you go to YouTube Studios and you're like, oh, I got 3 new subscribers this morning. You got 3 subscribers overnight. I remember that feeling. Again, guys, I just had, you know, 1,000 subscribers in January. So I love helping people out. Now, I can't help you. You know, there's nothing I can offer you. You know, I pick your brain over this YouTube stuff, right? But anybody who has like 5,000 subscribers or less, I've got so much material and knowledge for them, especially just knowledge about what I was doing wrong. And I pretty much did almost everything wrong you can do. So just telling people my path is a huge help to them. And I get messages every day from content creators, small content creators, you know, in this sector in Black
Mhm.
YouTube, and they just love it. I actually did a collaboration this afternoon with Preach of
Mhm.
Abba and Preach, and they have 1.4 million. And the whole collaboration was dedicated to Preach giving game on what it takes to get to that level and the mistakes that he made and that you can avoid. And so I've got that up. And then I did a collaboration with ABBA on Saturday, last Saturday.
Mhm.
And we were talking about the divorce stuff, right?
Mhm.
But I really have this passion for YouTube now. Now, I told you, I've been practicing for 20 years, so I'm ramping it down. I really, you know, I never wanted to be one of these attorneys you see at, you might not see them, but you know, if you go to any courthouse, you're going to see that 73-year-old attorney, that 82-year-old attorney
Mhm.
walking with a cane and got his cases. And I'm like, no, you know,
Yeah.
that's not where you want to be. Fortunately or unfortunately, you know, I don't have any children. You know, I don't have any alimony payments, so I don't have any debt. So I'm like,
Mhm.
why am I arguing with these judges? Why am I arguing so viciously with these opposing counsels when, you know, I don't need to do it anymore.
Right.
So I've been ramping down and really focusing on the YouTube stuff, not only in these live streams, but also really my kind of baby is to help others get their YouTube channels off the ground, especially if you're older, especially if you're a man 40 or above. You know, they say when a grandparent dies, when an old person dies, it's like a library burning down because of all the
Mhm.
knowledge that they have.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, if you are a 43-year-old man, you absolutely have so much knowledge that these 24-year-olds don't have. I mean,
That's
just
a fact.
right, just put yourself back when you were 24 and imagine, you know, what you knew then as opposed to what you know now. It's leaps and
Yeah.
bounds, right?
Yeah. It's absolutely leaps and bounds, but you said so many things there that's so important. You know, speaking about, you know, when an old person dies, it's like a library that burns down all the books. And, you know, thinking towards that there's so many people. And that's actually how you started off when you just started talking. There's so many people that can benefit even from basic knowledge, right? Like, because it's, you know, a lot of small mistakes that these brothers are making that inevitably turn into these huge mistakes. You know, I just did a video uploaded today regarding PJ Washington and Brittany
Oh,
Renner, and that's just like what are you thinking? Like, but those things often you just need it heard from the right person, right? And the benefit of being able to do that. And I'll be honest with you as well. Like before starting YouTube, I didn't know if I was going to be passionate about it, but similar to you, I had, you know, led a life in corporate America, and I just kind of came to a certain period and I was just like, do I really see myself doing this until old age? Do I really see myself climbing the corporate ladder, you know, in that fashion? So I sacrificed much of my free time, right? Much of my priorities in order to dig down deep and really figure out this whole space and, you know, how I can make an impact, and knowing that there's things that I say in these rooms, whether it be in the grad school, the undergraduate that I went to, or just being in corporate America and having so much interaction with so many diverse types of people. There's so much information that I could bring right here and then be impactful in people's lives as well. But then you're even taking it a step further, is to say, okay, now that I know that this is possible, and even someone who had a background like myself, and you know, thinking that probably when you graduated from law school, you thought that you're going to do something with your law degree probably until you retired. But then coming into this space right here and then seeing the relative potential, but not even just that, just the myriad of people that contact you that just say thank you, you know. Now
yes.
there's some haters that'll contact you as well. But you gotta dodge the haters at the end of the day. But you know,
I
but
have
that's a
definitely
skill in
been
itself.
contacted. Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, you're right. You're
Both
right.
privately and publicly you've been contacted.
Absolutely. You know, I'm in this damn thing with Tasha K now. Before Tasha K, I kind of tossed my hat into the whole fresh and fit ring
Hmm.
and you know, made some videos about that. They were being attacked so much. They barely even noticed me.
Hmm.
Before that, I was in a beef with Tommy Sotomayor. And if anybody knows Tommy Sotomayor, I mean
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
a
beef right there.
that's a, yeah, yeah. He'll make it even if it's
That's
not a beef. You know what I
exactly
mean?
right.
Yeah.
I mean, Tommy, you can say a lot of things about Tommy, but he ain't backing down. I'll
He
tell
ain't
you
backing
that. He is
down. Yeah.
not backing down.
Yeah.
And so this is another one. This is and probably if you're going to be a content creator and you are really going to try to put forth some opinions, even if you don't look for beef, because Lord knows I don't. I think I'm one of the nicest people in this sector. I don't really try to demonize that. You're super nice too, so I don't want to, but I think I might even be nice just talking to people
No,
so
no,
much.
you're way nicer.
There you go. Right?
No. There's levels to this nicest. I probably was
Yes.
the nicest until you could take the reign. You know what I'm saying? Which is so hilarious because they go after you way more than they go after me. Like I don't
It's
really have people that come after
crazy.
me at all, which is interesting.
Yeah, you would think if I was being that I'm so nice that I would avoid a lot of this stuff,
Hmm.
and I don't. But the stuff finds me, which is a lesson, in being a content creator because, at some point it's going to get you right. But you can't really acknowledge that. You just got to keep doing your thing and keep making content because you are helping people. I had a content creator this morning. He has about 1,000 subscribers, and he sent me. He left me a comment on one of his videos because I had commented. I said, "Hey, young buck, I like your video. This is good." And he commented. He was like, "Listen, I've watched your videos, and in the red pill community, which is something that I talk about all the time, the red pill community so much that does not believe in prenups." And he was saying that he also believed because he was 20. He's like 20, 21. He's super young. And he was like, I believe that prenups didn't work, but after listening to your videos, I see that they do. That right there, my impact on that man's life, that young man's life, it could easily save him, $400,000 in 10 years, right? If he insists on getting a prenup.
Yeah.
So these are the types of impacts that you can have on other people's lives. And I'll tell you, you might say 44 isn't that old, and I give you that. But if you're 44 years old and you don't have, you got an ex-wife, so you're not married and you don't have any kids, that you can easily come to a point where you're like, well, what am I really doing? I'm having fun and all that, but it's kind of like you're just playing, you're playing on the casino money because there's really nothing. You've got everything, if you're 45, 44, 43, and you've been moderately successful, or you've worked in the same job for 20 years, you're getting paid, right?
Yeah.
And so, men, we're usually low maintenance. We don't really need a lot. And so you look at your bank account, you look at what you want in your house, you got everything that you need.
Yeah.
And so you're like, well, what, I might as well help people because what the hell else am I doing here? Right.
Yeah.
If you don't have any kids of your own, right. You're like, why should I really bust my ass anymore if there's no one to kind of legacy, leave it down, pass it down to. And so that's kind of what this YouTube thing is for me. It's me passing down the information. If I had kids, I could certainly pass it down to them. But I don't have any kids. So I'm just passing it down to the young bucks, the young brothers and sisters, but mainly brothers who can avoid some of these easy mistakes. I was on the preach. I was talking to Abba on Saturday for the collab, and I talked straight from the heart. Like my channel was dedicated to helping young men. And one of the people who was watching was like, "Oh, why are you so biased against women?" And I said, "Listen, like and he said, well, how do you respond to this?" And I said, well, listen, it is what it is. It's not that I'm biased against women. I have represented women vigorously in court for 20 years. What I noticed though is that women are going to be okay in this society, right? It's the men that you got to watch out for. Kids are going to be okay. The kids have all these different programs. Everybody's checking for them. Similarly, women are going to be okay. You could take a woman, just some random woman, give her 3 kids that are not her own, sit her on a dirty ass couch and take a picture, upload that picture to GoFundMe, and look in that account 2 weeks later, and there's $200,000.
Yeah.
Did you see that? Those weren't even her kids.
Whether or not the kids were hers, right? Yeah, I did that story.
Exactly.
Yeah,
now,
I was angry.
Right? Now, let a man try that.
Yeah, it doesn't. It won't happen. CNN won't even cover it.
Exactly. If those aren't even his kids, he might go to prison.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? So men are the ones who really need the help. The kids are going to get the help from the government. The women are going to get the help from the government and vicariously through you, right? But who's helping the men, right? Men, so many times we're just left to fend for ourselves, and the older men are not passing down the requisite information that we need. So that's why I started my YouTube channel, to pass this information down.
And bless the internet, because if it wasn't for Web 2.0, we wouldn't have the platforms to be able to do this. But I really, really mean this when I say this, is that the revolution will be televised, and it will be televised on YouTube.
Yes.
And I'd never really understood the power of, and it makes sense because of movies, but like the power of video content, right? And the power of putting someone in front of a screen, having them watch something, and if they like you and the things that you say have a potential impact and influence on them, which is honestly, it keeps me up at night because although as I'm doing content from much more of an entertainment perspective, I still think about, wait, no, but the words that I'm saying is going to impact other people's lives potentially in the decisions that they will make. And it's like you now have power once you're in that influencer's seat. So it's like you got to wield that, appropriately within that. So
Absolutely.
mhm,
Absolutely. You're exactly right. And it's so much power. Guys, I grew up without a father in the home. My mother and father were never married. I vaguely remember my father. I think, in my head, I might have seen him about 3 or 4 times that I can remember. I think the
mhm,
last time I saw him when I was about 5 or 6, right? So I don't remember anything about him. And there were a lot of lessons that I grew up with that I didn't really learn. Even how to tie this damn tie. Guys, do you know how I learned how to tie a tie?
YouTube.
YouTube. That's exactly right. That is exactly right.
That's
That's
the
how I
way I
learned
learned
to
how to
tie.
time that. That's the Windsor knot for the fellas that's
Yes,
down
that's
in the
exactly
building.
right. It's the double Windsor because I got a
That's a
big
double Windsor.
head, so I needed a bigger tie.
You
Yeah.
got right that neck space. But
Yes.
I learned how to tie that tie on YouTube. But I already knew how to tie a tie. But my tie was one of those weak looking ties. But I like the Windsor. The Windsor got that nice professional look to it. You know
Yes.
what I mean?
Before then, it was just going to church when I was a kid and that damn clip-on tie,
Yeah.
and so it's like this internet thing is going to be huge for our community and really for men who grow up with a lot of men just grew up without a lot of lessons from the older men. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of what I want to do. Not to step into being anybody's dad or anything, believe me, right? I don't want to be anybody's dad, but
Mhm.
to give you the legal side, maybe like your uncle who happens to be an attorney, that you can just come to him, hey, I got this question, or hey, and just sit down and let me talk to you for a second. And unbiased, I don't have a dog in the damn fight, but I'm just telling you from what I've seen from 20 years, I'm giving you some real information. And
Yeah.
so I really do think, I don't want to blow my own horn or anything, but I really do think the channel is important. And there are not a lot of attorneys in this sector who are doing this. I
Right.
mean, in the Black sector, it's really just me and Uncle D. Shout out to Dennis Sperling. He
Mhm.
is a civil attorney. So he talks a little bit more about civil law, but then he doesn't really focus so much on the law as more about the manhood type of aspect. In
Mhm.
terms of really trying to give the legal side of things, I think I more or less do that, and
Mhm.
especially the divorce and marriage side, because
Right.
there really is. There's the only 20-year divorce attorney in the whole sector is me. And
Yeah.
so I take that seriously, and I want to talk to the young men about the stuff that I've seen because my experience has changed me and changed the way that I look at relationships. Now, a lot of people saying women too, they're like, "Oh, lead attorney, you're on this bullshit because you started the channel for men, so you hate women." It's not
Mm.
true. I love women. I have been married before. I was married for 10 years. Got divorced, 2015, 2016, dated hard after that, got into, I recently got out of a long-term relationship that was headed towards marriage, right? If
Mhm.
if we, if that relationship would have lasted maybe a year longer, I would easily be married again. So
Mm.
it's, and maybe that's something that the red pill community does not want to hear, right? You hear a lot of men saying there's no reason to get married, especially if you don't want to have any kids, right? And so, my perspective is a lot more balanced. It's a lot more nuanced than one might imagine. Being that I start a channel just not just for men because there's probably 40% women on my channel for some reason. They fucking love it, right?
40%.
Yeah, it's a ton.
Get out.
In
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah.
before I got into the fresh and fit thing, it was more like, there were times when before the fresh and fit stuff got me a lot of dudes. I guess they got a lot of men
Mhm.
over there
Mhm.
as subscribers. But there were times when it would even be like 55% women, 60% women
Get
sometimes.
out of here. That's interesting.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
But and I really do, it's not like I try to keep the women, but what I absolutely do is try to be fair. And I
Mhm.
call the women out on their bullshit, but I also call the men out on their BS as well.
Mhm.
In a nice way. In a nice way.
Mhm.
I'm not, slamming, kicking women out of my apartment and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I ain't doing all
Right.
that.
Right, right,
Right.
right,
But
right.
I really do try to be fair. And I think that people pick up on that. And I'm just letting my experience dictate my perspective, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm right about everything. You know, in this conversation, there are going to be things that you disagree with, that your chat disagrees with, and I'm not even saying I'm right. I'm just saying this is what I believe based on what I have seen, right? But everybody's views can be different. But yeah,
Mhm.
I don't really go out of my way to slam anybody or be too much of a shock jock. I just try to call it like I see it,
Yeah.
and I think men and women respond to that.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question too, and this is kind of in the spirit of Man Mondays, as I like to call it. But
Yeah,
you did mention that you grew up without an active presence from your father. How do you think that impacted your understanding of your manhood or your masculinity growing up?
tremendously. You know, I grew up with my mother and my grandmother until Jesus, until I was about 10 when my mom got married
Hmm.
to another guy. And I mean, there was no masculinity anywhere to be found in that house. Having said that, you know, I still got whoopings and everything, right? So it's not like my mom was a softy, but in terms of a masculine viewpoint, I never got it. Never
Hmm.
got it. And I started to realize that I never got it. I guess once I hit college and started looking at how other young men my age were moving, maybe
Hmm.
young men, especially the white men. I went to UGA, tons of white folks. Shout out to the white folks, right?
Yeah,
And
I went to Penn
UGA.
State, so
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
familiar.
that's
Shout out to the
exactly right.
PWIs, right?
Yes. And so you're like, oh, okay, because you know, and a lot of white people, of course, a lot of white people grow up without their fathers too, but a lot of them do have fathers in the home.
Hmm.
And so you're starting to get older, and you're starting to look around. You're starting maybe to talk to college professors, right? Really talking to college professors was the first time that I had access to talk to older men, right? Because my
Mm.
family's super small anyway. You know, I got an uncle, but that's it. You know, it's not like
Mhm.
we were talking every day. And so talking to some of these college professors, I was like, "Oh, okay, this is a man. All right,
Mhm.
okay, I see. I kind of see how it goes." And
Mhm.
this is not a knock on my mom or my grandma. You know, they just didn't have the capacity to teach me something that they're not. You know, if I had a daughter, there's no way I could teach her how to be a woman.
Mm.
There's no way, right?
Mhm.
But you know, shoes can he can be on the other foot too. And so they did it. Of course, you know, I feel like they were super successful in raising me.
Mhm.
Having said that, you know, it's hard for a woman to give a man a boy everything he needs. So there were tons of lessons that I had to learn on my own. For example, how do you tie a tie?
Mhm.
Right? And so, you know, YouTube taught me a lot of that. Books, you know, back in the day, you know, I remember before there was the internet, and I remember when books were a thing, right? So books, it was really when I was coming up, it was a mixture of books and internet until the later years when the internet just really took off.
Right.
And that's where, and then just life, right? So books, internet, and just life, right? Those are
Mhm.
the three things where I got my masculinity, whatever amount that I may have. It's frequently questioned on YouTube. I'll tell you that.
There's no question you about everything on YouTube. You know, that's why I told you. I told TLA behind scenes, man, I just post and go at this point because man, those comments, you know what I mean? Like as much as I say
Crazy.
that I have an iron thick skin, you know, there's sometimes you look at some of these comments and it's like, oh, like, like damn, like Jesus,
They go
it's a
so
nightmare.
hard. They go
Yeah, they
so
go hard.
hard.
So,
Yeah.
so let me ask a follow up question as well, and feel free to deny this question because I don't know how much information you want to give out. But
Yeah.
I guess if you were to learn or tell us about your major learnings post divorce in terms of being able to select correctly, being able to select the lady correctly, are there main things that you'd like to share? Because I know there's a bunch of brothers that are down up in here that most of which are probably like, no, no, not marriage is not for me. But I think like deep down they're like, oh, well, TLA was talking about how much a prenup it actually makes sense. So maybe da 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 da. So shout out to the to all y'all. But any lessons learned of that you'd be willing to share with us?
Yeah. The first thing that I learned was that really reflecting on it, because I'm introverted. You guys, if you watch my streams, you may not know it, but I'm pretty introverted. So I like to think a lot. because I like to be alone a lot. And, really reflecting on the problem with my marriage, it was really me. It was really me. I had some fundamental misunderstandings, even as a divorce attorney, about what a marriage was. And the main thing that I realized was that I was the cause of my marriage breaking down. And I don't want to get, I don't want to, get too into the weeds here. But the main thing, as you can see from my videos, I'm a super nice guy, and I tried to handle my marriage like that. And
Mm.
so, in my marriage, I got with a young woman. Now, she was very young at the time. I was 30 and she was 22, right? If
It's
anybody
a good
knows
gap.
if anybody knows the Foot Locker chick, if anybody's followed me for this is not to be disrespectful to her, but she was very young.
Mhm.
And now she's a very disagreeable person. She had a very, very strong character. Having said that, she was young and she would have listened to me if I really would have been the leader in that relationship. But my thinking was, listen, you're young, but you're grown. I'm grown. We're just going to do this 50-50. We're going to be kind of co-leaders in this. And we're just gonna make it work, right? That shit did
Yeah.
not work, right? What I go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that what you speak of is exactly what I talk about video after video, and it's this idea of um letting your manhood, letting your masculinity reign, because more often than not, women, and here's the thing is that, like, being young and strong-willed can be a particular hurdle to have to climb. However, not having the essentials of your manhood, your masculinity, or what they want out of you can be a burden down the pike, as years start to go on within that. So, but go on. I
Yes.
know you were describing it.
No, no, no. Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I did not understand her needs
Hmm.
as a woman in terms of a marriage. I knew her needs as a girlfriend, and we could certainly certainly make that work. But in terms of being a husband, I just did not know what that looked like. I had never seen a husband before in my life. Right. Well,
Do
let
it,
me take
yeah.
that back. Let me take that back. My mother did get married to a gentleman, and their marriage lasts for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. So he was a stepfather,
Hmm.
but it's not like because we didn't have that biological relationship. It's not like he got married to my mom for me, right? He got
Hmm.
married to my mom for her, and so we had a very cordial relationship. But to say it was close would be probably putting a little bit too much icing on the cake.
Hmm.
And so, and then it turned out that, he wasn't really, I don't want to get into it, but so I never really got that consistent idea of what a marriage, what the man's part of a marriage is. You can easily slide into this whole idea of a man's part of the marriage is just to bring home the bacon. But what
Hmm.
I will tell you as a ex-husband and also a 20-year divorce attorney is that is just the start, pimp. I
Hmm.
mean, you bring it. I mean, that's just, signing your name at the top of the test and then actually taking the test. That's just signing your name.
Hmm.
You really need to provide a strong amount of leadership to direct where the relationship is going to go. And
Whew.
I didn't see that until I had a problem,
Mm.
because when I was being so nice and okay, just 50-50, we're going to kind of come to this thing together. She was growing up I mean, she was only 22 when I married her. So
Right.
she's actually growing up and getting older in the relationship, in the marriage. She starts testing her bounds. And because I'm a nice guy, like, listen, just chill out. I was
Hmm.
giving her a lot of rope.
Hmm.
Well, I look up 5-6 years later and I'm like, shit, I have created a monster. Right.
Mm. Too much
And
rope.
I mean, she was hanging me with the rope,
Mm.
right? And so once I realized that I had, what's the word? She had become accustomed to this. Once I tried to put the brakes on it, we had already gone too far. And so, I made this last ditch effort to be like, look, and, to shout her out. We're really great friends now. Much better than we were, the last few years of the relationship. I really, sat her down and I said, listen, these are the problems that I'm having. And this is the way it needs to be addressed. And to her credit, she really tried. But it was just it had just become a part of her personality, the way that she functioned in the marriage. And it was unacceptable to me.
Right.
So I filed for divorce. It was much more, I drew the papers up in my kitchen. We didn't have any kids or anything like that, the Lord, right? And so it was pretty amicable. It was kind of hard at the end, because that's how divorces are. It's hard to get out of there scot-free. But I learned, guys, and then when I started seeing it in my own home, I started seeing it in all of the divorces that I was handling. All of these weak men, not necessarily weak, but they were handling their marriage in a weak way.
Yeah.
Right. They were being
but society,
too nice.
But society kind of instructs us to handle it like that, right? Like, and that's why I try to push so much man mindset on the channel, masculinity mindset on the channel, and to do it in a way where men take pride in being a man and not to just say no to what is deemed as toxic masculinity, right? Like, but that's just a portion of being in your masculine self or your masculine frame. And when I see it happening as much as what I do, and I see so many young men that want to nice them well themselves in the situation, but being nice is not a part of masculinity. Sometimes you got to be assertive within that, or have your confidence within the things that you're saying. And then here's the thing, that a feminine young lady is going to like these things. She's going to find these things inherently attractive if their minds are not too far gone or conditioned too much by feminism and the things that are topsy-turvy within our culture here today. I'm happy. And the thing is like the way that you describe is brilliant, because what it sounds is when you gave too much rope, that's when rope really started to get far, right? That's when the respect was gone. So she then wasn't handling the situations for what you expected at that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some of the things that she would say to me, and it's not like she worked or anything like that, right? Because, we don't have any kids and I'm an attorney, right? So her days, would just be filled. She would just play tennis, right? With the girls, the older women down at the country club. And, I would come home and, from a very stressful job, from a very stressful day. And, she wants to tell me about, how upset that she is because her tennis match got rained out.
First world problems. Go ahead.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then when I say, okay, and when I say, listen, I get it, but give me some time to decompress. Of course, this woman, she wants to be all up under you. She wants to talk to you. She don't want to give you your space. And then you start getting agitated because these first world problems are problems that she's feeling, but I created the world. And, not to be an asshole about it, but, if your wife doesn't work and you don't have any kids, you are creating her world. Like, she's living scot-free from you. Now, if you bring this up, you're going to be a major asshole, right? But, it's a fact. And so, a lot of times in a marriage, every person thinks that they contribute at least equally, but probably a little more than the other person. Everybody thinks they're pulling a little bit more weight than their partner. It's just a natural, and studies have borne this out, right? It's not a man or woman thing. Men will say they're pulling a little bit harder. Women will say they're pulling a little bit harder. But to me, it was very clear who was doing. Which
is interesting because you also described 50-50, but from a financial perspective, it wasn't 50-50. It was 100-0. But you were still, from a philosophical perspective, you guys were still working as a 50-50.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
And it never should have started that way. It never should have started that way. Now, up until that point, that's how I had handled all of my relationships. Because again, I'm a nice guy. This is before all the red pill community. We're talking 15, 16 years ago. I mean, maybe there was a red pill community, but it wasn't as huge as it is now, right? It wasn't huge like that.
Mhm.
And so I'm coming up in the whole Disneyland fairy tale,
Mhm.
man and woman, oh, boyfriend and girlfriend. That's how I'm
Mhm.
treating women, raised down here in Georgia, the utmost respect, I'm
Mhm.
super, super cool.
Mhm.
And what I found out was that did not work for the type of woman that I had. Now,
Mm.
let me be fair. The woman that I chose had some super masculine traits. Like
Mm.
she was super, even though she was young at the time, I knew.
Yeah, you
And it's part
knew.
of the reason that I liked her, right? I knew that she was
She was a little
hardcore.
spicy.
Yes.
She a little spicy. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
But see, we like that too. But
That's
we are
exactly
conditioned to like
right.
that. Like
That's
I'm from New York,
exactly
and like I'm used to the spiciness. And even right now, you know what I mean? As I'm
Jesus.
I'm in the Midwest right now, and I have to actually think about, not being attracted to the spiciness. You know what I mean?
That's
The
exactly
that
right.
assertive behavior. But to a
Yes.
degree, we are conditioned, and and I would say like me, a lot of it was coming from New York and the environment, because in my home, I was raised single parent with my father.
Mhm.
But single parent households, where there's, potentially, a matriarch within the family. And if you see much more masculine attitudes and behaviors that come from mothers or aunties, then you can, and if that's your first love, then you can see components within that and then transition that into someone that you would particularly marry. But yeah, but that's one of the things, is like identify the masculine characteristics
Jesus
early and often,
Christ.
and then shoot,
Yes.
go the other way, if they're not willing to work on that.
Correct.
Mhm.
Correct. Because, once I started thinking about why my marriage was taking a downturn and why I was unable to fix it, and I just really took a step back and just looked at this woman, I was like, Now shout out to Kevin Samuels because he really put the whole being feminine thing on the map.
Mm.
Like he gave it an actual name. But a
Mhm.
lot of guys, even back in the day, you might not have called it feminine, but you just knew that it was just something that we're butting heads all the time.
Mhm.
Why are we at each other's, it shouldn't be this way. Now,
Mhm.
even the way that I was, we can call it, let's just call it a soft way. Let's just call it, not very leadership oriented. That marriage would have worked if I would have had a super feminine woman,
Mm.
right? It absolutely would have worked. You don't have to, guys, you don't necessarily have to be so hardcore. There just needs to be a gap
Yeah.
between your masculinity and the femininity of the woman.
Mhm.
Which you are not gonna, it's not gonna be where you meet a woman and she's masculine. So you say, okay, well, I'm gonna marry her. And then just throughout the 20 years of marriage, I'm just gonna bump my masculinity up 10 points. It's not gonna happen. Like you
Mm.
are not gonna be able to hold it because it's not you.
Mm.
You should not try to come up on your masculinity. You should kind of accept. I mean, there are little things you can do, but you're not going to be able to fool a woman for 10 years.
Right.
Women are going to see that you're full of, women are going to see
Eventually, yeah.
exactly where you are on the
Mhm.
masculinity scale. So
Mhm.
if you want to get married, before even looking at the woman, you asked me about vetting the woman. Before even looking at the woman, you need to look at yourself. You need to say, okay, where am I on the masculinity chart? And
Mhm.
then once you realize where you are, you can know that there is a certain portion of the population that even if they're fine, even if they're attractive, they are not for you for marriage.
Mm.
Maybe for dating, certainly for one night stand, maybe even a long-term relationship, not a marriage. A marriage is a special thing. You
Mhm.
need to get a woman not only below you, but like significantly below you. There
Mhm.
needs to be a disparity. And those are the marriages that will work when people are naturally themselves.
Mm.
Again, there are little things that you can do here or there to try to get the right mindset, and that'll kind of set you down on a long term path. But you need to look at yourself first. And once you get yourself orientated, okay, this is who I am, then you could select a woman. I might be like a man who is Monique, the comedian Monique.
Mhm.
She's the one who was telling everybody
The bonnets.
to, yes, yes, she's
Mhm.
telling everybody to boycott Netflix. Super masculine woman.
Mhm.
Yet she is married to a black man, and whenever you see them together on interviews, she's always like, "Yes, baby, yes, daddy." Right? She's got this man calling her. I could never be in a relationship with Monique where she would call me daddy. I'm just gonna be honest, that bitch would run all over me. Right? Her masculinity, she's so masculine.
Yeah.
She would run all over me. But
Thanks.
if you're that husband, you can date anybody. If you're so masculine that you can have Monique calling you daddy in public in 2021,
Yeah.
right? Calling you daddy. Monique, there is no woman who you
Right.
cannot date, right?
You good. Right.
Exactly. But I am lesser than him, right? So I don't
Yeah.
have access to all these Moniques.
Yeah.
I have to get the women who are super feminine.
Super feminine.
Exactly. And, shout out to Kevin Samuels because he's really saying something. Most men are kind of like me. Kevin, if you're trying to key in on getting a feminine woman, then you really need a woman whose testosterone levels, masculinity is going to be low. Not testosterone, because of course I was higher, but their attitude is lower, right?
Yeah.
And it really worked, guys. A key to this also is, Kevin Samuels isn't necessarily telling men to raise their masculinity up, be more masculine. Right. No, just get a woman that's more feminine. And that is a huge, huge key. And now that I think in terms of this, when I was seeing it in my marriage, 10 years ago when the ship was falling apart, and I was reflecting, and she couldn't change by that point because we had been married 5, 6, 7 years. And so the routine was kind of ingrained. That's when I started seeing it in all of my clients. And I was like, oh my God, this is a real
framework
thing
that you needed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now I handle all of my relationships much, much differently. And the women that I select are, man, they're so much better. Different. Now, I have selected some women who were super masculine, but I knew at the time that wasn't.
How far are you going to take it?
Right? They didn't know, but I knew.
You knew. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're in Atlanta too, right? So you got the pick of the list.
Yes. Yeah. And I found one. She was the most feminine woman I had ever met in my life. And she was the one, if our relationship had lasted, another year, we would absolutely be married. And this is coming from a 20-year divorce attorney. Yeah. You don't have to be scared of marriage if you marry in the right way. And I am firmly convinced that living with the right woman, and there are a lot of right women. It's not like there's only one on the planet for you, I believe. There could easily be 4 million women on the planet somewhere. Now, you're not going to meet most of them, right? Because maybe some are in Japan, maybe some are on the continent in Johannesburg. But just in terms of lining up what you want and she wants, there's so many women. Now, numerically, not in terms of the whole population. In terms of population, there's a very small percentage. But in terms of just the absolute number, there are a lot of women out there that you guys can get with if you can choose them correctly and get a little lucky.
What I appreciate about
improve your life.
What I appreciate about what you said as well is that you're not trying to be someone who you're not. In terms of your level of degree of masculinity, because there's always upper and lower limits to things, right? Like I can't expect myself to play like LeBron James. I'm just not as genetically as gifted as him. I haven't been in the league as much or even training the way that he has. So there's upper and lower limits of me being a basketball player. And the same thing I think is in respect to masculinity as well, right? There's going to be upper and lower limits depending upon your genetic disposition. At the end of the day, you understood what the particular issue was, and then now that you understood it, you could have done little things in order to kind of enhance your leadership capabilities within a marriage if you decide to get married into the future. But you understood it, and you didn't try to be somebody that you aren't. You just understood it and said, okay, based off of this, my understanding of that, I know now what would work better for me in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you're never going to be able to change, you're never going to be able to change women. And you're really not even going to be able to change yourself very quickly in the short term. You can set yourself down a path. And, after you've gone down that path, you're a changed man. But, usually you're not going to be able just to, become 20 points more masculine overnight. It's just not going to work. And it might work within the next 6 hours, but you're going to regress back to your mean. You're going to regress back to your normal state, and women are going to catch it.
Yeah,
like you can
easily
fool a woman. Yes.
like a shark catches blood in the water.
Exactly.
Right. Makes their skin crawl.
That is exactly right. And she's not even going to know that she caught you. You know, you're going to be sitting down there playing Xbox, and she's going to open up the trash to throw something out in the kitchen, and the trash is going to be full, and she's going to be like, oh, you know, come up here and take out the trash. And you're going to be in the middle of the game, and you're going to put the controller down, and you're going to be like, yes, honey. You're going to walk over there. She's going to be like, wait.
Right. Yeah. That's it.
Did he really? and then, right? That's all it takes.
That's it.
You were not thinking, oh, I need to hold a masculine frame. You were in your game. You just slid, and she caught it. And that's it, man. Once you catch that,
right. The viscous innards don't turn into viscous anymore. They're just innards at that point.
They're just dry innards, right? So you are not going to be able to fool this lady long term. Yeah. So, you know, don't try to kick your masculinity up 20 points. Just find a suitable woman where there's a large discrepancy between your masculinity, whatever it is, and then hers. And that's a huge step in terms of a marriage. You will never hear this from a woman. Right? No woman is going to tell you that this is so important, but I'm telling you this not only from a personal perspective, but also from a professional perspective, guys. This is huge. It is an absolute game changer. And I have been in relationships with super masculine women, and I just got out of a relationship with the most feminine woman I've ever even met ever been with in my life. And I tell you, beyond a doubt, it was a night and day change. Even to the extent, and I'll just be honest with you guys, we broke up in June. And even though our relationship is ruined, I really do think about it. I'm just like, should I try to get back?
I got a couple of those in my life.
Right? Because how often do you meet a woman? Like, if my masculinity is here, wherever it is, like her femininity was right here. The discrepancy was so big. I meet a lot of women around this type of level, a little bit up, a little bit down, right? So like, you never really know, Yeah. But her, I mean, just her natural state was so down here. It's like, I know our shit's fucked up, but you gotta think about it, right? And that's where, right? But that's where, the masculinity and being a man to just like, nah, So even though you want certain things in life as a man, you got to realize, this shit's probably over, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
And let me ask you another question too. Did you think that, being 20 years, or I guess at that time period, you were 10 years a divorce attorney. Did you think that because you had watched all of these breakups that you had the keys prior to getting married of what it took to be successful?
Yeah, I guess married at 30. So it's probably, when do you graduate from law school? Probably about 22, 23. So I probably had about 7-8 years as a divorce. Well, in the beginning, I was doing divorce work, but I was also doing other work. I was doing criminal, I was doing civil, I was doing accidents. I was still kind of feeling my way. But I probably had a really good, solid 5 years of divorce work. Having said that, it's not really a long time for a divorce attorney. If a divorce attorney comes up to me and he's telling me that he's been practicing solely divorces for 5 years, I'm gonna say, okay, that's a start. But you're still trying to figure yourself out. A 30-year-old attorney still is a young attorney. And so I did see a lot of broken marriages, but honestly, I was so into grinding. 30 years old, you're trying to get that money, man. And I was trying to get it. And so I wasn't really being so circumspect. I wasn't being so reflective on what I was just trying to handle the cases, trying to get the law down, trying to get my arguments, trying to get my style down. And so, I was in this, I had just gotten into this marriage. So I really wasn't thinking in terms of, what would make the marriage work. Honestly, I just had assumed that it would work, right? I had just assumed, well, I'm a good person. She's a good person. Right? We love each other. Why would it not work? There was no reflection on such a huge process. It was just an assumed thing,
Right.
You date a woman 2 years, you're 30, you just get married. Why not get married? A lot of guys in the red pill community are like, what the hell are you talking about? But this is how it was back in the day, guys. You gotta give me a little bit of flexibility and kind of put me back in my time period. Because we're talking like 15 when did I get married? I guess when did I get divorced? I got divorced 2015, 16. So that means I got married in like 2006, something like that. Like
Mhm.
that was way, I mean, YouTube was young
It
back
was young.
then.
It was this
Yeah.
content did not. It was only cat videos up here in 2006.
That's
You know.
exactly right. That's
Mhm.
exactly right. So
So
I
let,
was
let me ask you another
totally
question
blue
too.
pill. Hmm.
So do you, as you look in the content in the space today, whether it be the red pill content or the manosphere content, then as you, and I guess you already answered this question because you said shout out to Kevin Samuels for really coming out with the and really pushing this structure of high value man as well as femininity. But I guess, do you look at the content in the space now, and are you um excited for young men as they look at that content? And even if you are, is there certain pieces of information that you think is detrimental to young boys or young men?
Yes, on both sides, on well, I'm super positive. I'm positive and I'm negative on
Mhm,
this red pill community.
mhm.
The positive aspects I see, and I'm not sure if you would put Kevin Samuels in the red pill community. I'm not really sure how the red pill community stuff works. Certainly, it's in the manosphere, right?
Yeah, he's manosphere for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much great information for these young dudes. I remember when it wasn't there.
Mm,
And now you've got so many content creators talking about this stuff, right?
mhm.
And the knowledge is real knowledge, even if it comes from fake people. Shout out these
Mhm.
fresh and fit dudes, right? Some of the stuff that they were saying is
It's
true,
true,
right?
right.
Even if they
It's just,
weren't really living it.
yeah,
And, I think it's clear they were not.
it's very clear, yeah.
Even some of the stuff that they were saying was true. So if you can get it from them, and then all the other content creators, man, you young bucks, you 24-year-olds, you don't know the advantages that you have. You have
Big
so
facts.
much knowledge that we didn't have.
Yeah.
You're kind of in between, right? Because what are you, like 35, something like that?
36.
36. So I'm about 8-10 years older than you.
Mhm.
So you're kind of in between me and the
The
25-year-olds.
young cats. Yep.
Yes.
Mhm.
But guys, if you're 24, 26, you have so much information that we just did not have. It's so hard to be critical about that. I love it. I love the manosphere. And
Mhm.
again, we can debate about whether I'm red pill or not, and that's fine. But the whole point, I did start my channel for men, right? I mean,
Mhm.
it's an explicit declaration from day one.
Yeah.
Even if at times I have 50% women, because I think they come because I'm fair. But the channel is always, hey man, let me tell you something. So I'm so excited that this space exists, because there's no if you take the manosphere away from YouTube, men are they're in the
There's
fucking
no
80s
spaces.
again. There's
Right.
there's nothing.
There's
There's
nothing.
nothing.
There's nothing pushing our thoughts, our ideologies. It's also very interesting to see that how much of the manosphere is also supported by Black men. And I think it goes to show the times that we are in, and perhaps how bad that has actually gotten. But if you look at some of the numbers on the white side of the manosphere, they don't even get the numbers, half the number. I mean, you're blowing through their numbers even right now, right? And there's
That's
more of them
crazy.
than us, right? So but it just goes to show kind of the state of the union. And I actually think a lot of that has to do with the 70% single mother rate as well. And you got a lot of young men that are just coming up to this information and looking at you like, you're a divorce attorney. So I think that you had the necessary knowledge to not get absolutely fleeced. But there's a lot of these dudes that just walk into the situation, with that blue pill mindset ideology of what you described, just assuming the best, just assuming Disney, assuming the
Exactly.
fairy tale, and they end up getting their shirts ripped from out of or the rug ripped from under them due to whatever the situation is. So, but in terms of like, what do you think anything is detrimental? Because I did a live stream, I want
Yes.
to say about 6 or so weeks ago, and I called out like all of the main negative things that I saw of getting attached. And it's hilarious. And I know I strategically didn't participate in that fresh and fit discussion, and we talked behind scenes as to why. But the a lot of the talking points I was thinking about and looking at their ish, right? Like, and I saw things such as, the tribalism, the mob mentality, and kind of all these things. But I guess from your perspective, like what do you think are kind of the main things that we should look out for?
Yeah, and see, this is where people want to kick me out of the red pill community, right? But I'll be honest with you. You know, I am not in. It seems like to me, a 23-year-old can get on YouTube and stay in the red pill community for 4 months and come to the conclusion that he should never get married.
Mm,
And I think that is so detrimental. I
mm,
think that the red pill community has very little nuance. You know, it's talking to a herd, it's talking to a mob, it's telling just more or less all men that there's no reason ever to get married to a woman unless you want kids.
mm,
And I think that if men listen to that, there will be so many men who leave so much happiness on the table. You know, will they be safe if they just do this type of, you know, spinning plates, which is not what most men want anyway, right?
mm.
Most men don't have the desire to spin plates nor the capability, right? I mean, because
There's blue pills nowadays. You know what I mean?
I mean,
The TRT.
listen. Yeah,
But I get you. I get you.
I truly believe that it's like 75% of men are blue pill.
Mm,
I don't know I don't know what to tell you guys. Men are getting married every single day.
yeah.
Right? So do men just want if a man could just snap his fingers and have sex with a different woman every day, would he do it? Absolutely. All right. But that's not really spinning plates. Spinning plates is much harder because you have to go out and get the women and
Yeah.
then you got to maintain them, right?
Yeah.
And really getting the women for so many men, I mean, so many incels, it's impossible.
Impossible. Yeah.
If you are a 6, how in the hell are you going to spin plates in the United States of America?
Right.
Right, with all of these women who are 4s looking for 8s and 9s.
For 8s and ups, right.
How the hell are you going to spend?
It's gonna be expensive.
Listen, you are lucky if you get one plate and you ain't spinning. You just holding on. You just holding on to that thing, right? So it's not like most men want to spend. I mean, that's not, you know, spinning plates is a whole going on the dates and then trying to manage it. Trying to spin 3 or 4 plates. Most men don't want to do it. They would like to do it up until give them 90 days. And then they're going to be like, you know what?
I'm with you.
I just want one woman, right? I made fun of your boy Fresh on that. You know, they made a video on the receipts video, right? Where they were talking about all the receipts, and then, you know, Fresh let it slip, and I called him out on it. You know, he was saying, "Oh, well, you know, I got off the phone with this, I think some guy named Mr. Organic or something." He was like, you know, no, this is another part of the clip where he was like, you know what? I was thinking, he was talking to the dude. He was like, I was thinking, and you know, I think I'm just gonna, you know, after all of this and looking at how these women move, I think I'm just gonna get with one woman. And then the tall one kind of looked at him. He's like, okay, well, 2 women. And then he was like, no, 3 women. And then he was like, no, just one woman. I just want one woman, right? And because I called his ass out on it because I'm like, listen, right? You guys are saying, oh, I'm sleep with all these women at NBA mansions. You let it slip. Your ass wants one woman. Why? Right? It doesn't mean that you're a blue pill or a simp. It's just dealing with women, all their BS. You're gonna have 4 of them.
Yeah,
come on, guys. If you're 22, that's fine. Be 37 and try to deal with that.
TLA, you speak complete facts. I got to give you a bit of pushback though. Okay. You speak complete facts because here's the thing. Me at 36, right? 36 years old. I often say on the channel that you know, I no longer have as much fun on my Friday nights and my Saturday nights. It's more like my Saturday mornings and my Sunday mornings where I could, you know, open up my laptop, be about my purpose, you know, maybe hang out with good people, but I'm no longer doing the nighttime grind like that. And, you know, having all these fun, you know, with all these women and, you know, like I did back in my 20s, it's just simply not as fun anymore. So even myself, I say eventually long-term, extremely long-term relationship. But then as I look towards all of the elders that I grew up around, and I know anecdotal experiences is not statistical, but just if I look around and all of the dudes have gone through divorces, a lot of them are just living into perpetuity with a significant other, but they're not going in front of, you know, the government or a court office in order to get it decreed in front of, you know, whatever right?
Mhm.
So my thing is that if I see them happen, if I see them doing it and they're happy, I guess what so much is about the marriage that you think, right? Because I tell dudes, right, like, in most states anyway, cohabitation laws start to kick in, which treat it like marriage after a while, but at least you have some time, right, before whatever the statute of the limitations. I know I'm lost stuff, but I don't know what I'm talking about. So
No,
correct
no,
me
no,
if I'm
no.
wrong.
You're fine.
But you have a little bit of time before it kicks in within the certain state that you're in. So I guess from your perspective, what is it about marriage particularly? Because I still think that you can live for the rest of your life with somebody without jumping over the broom.
Yeah, no, I hear that. And I'm going to answer that. Like, I guess your question is basically boiled down like, why get married? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Or what's the necessity? Okay, so I'm going to answer that question. But you said you wanted to give some pushback as to what I said. Well, so what specifically was the pushback?
So the pushback was that the one of the issues that you have with the content in the space is that a young man can walk away about 4 months after looking at it and say they will never want to get married.
Mhm.
So the pushback is that although I'm with you, I think that can happen if which is why I say on the channel, I say it's a tool, use it as a tool, but as long as you understand the pros, the cons, the impacts, the risk, right? And in this day and age, you have to think about an exit strategy because we all know the numbers, how many people initiate it, how many inevitably end up going through. So I guess the pushback is it necessarily an incredibly bad thing if people walk away with an assumption that as a man, it's not a benefit? Is it necessarily a bad thing that they come up to that conclusion with looking at the content in the space? When I see so many older people living together, not married, just happy as they can be.
Yes, it is a bad thing. And it's a bad thing precisely because of what you just said. I think I heard you say to kind of use it as a tool, analyze the risk, analyze the benefits, go into it go into it being able to make an informed decision. And that's all that I want. But that
Mm,
is not what the red pill community says. Like what you just
mm,
said, I 100% agree with. But
mm,
that's not what the real pill community says. The real pill community says, don't get married unless maybe you want kids.
mm,
Where the hell is the pros and the cons? Where the hell is the nuance? Where the hell is, make your own informed decision, right? So
mm,
I agree with that part of what you just said.
mm,
Now, your point is well taken. There are significant risks
mm,
to marriage, but there are also benefits.
mm,
Now, what people need to realize, and this is we're just kind of walking all the way back to kind of what is a marriage? What is a marriage for you? What is a successful marriage? I can tell you, as a person who's been dealing with this for 2 decades, that, probabilities are that your marriage is probably going to terminate before you die, before your wife dies. It's not going to be like a death do you part type of thing, right? It's
mhm,
not going to be the case. Having said that, let's say, for example, you're married for 13 years. 10 years of those were great. Year 11 was kind of, and year 12 and 13 were pretty bad.
mhm,
So you had 10 and a half really good years, and then you had 2 bad years. Is that a failed marriage?
mm,
Right? Listen, guys, let me tell you something. Life is hard. And if I can say, listen, I'm going to give you 10 emotionally great years, and then 2 of those years you're going to suffer a little bit, but let's be honest, in life sometimes you suffer anyway.
mhm,
But to lock in 10, 11 good years, if I could just tell you what was going to happen over the life of your marriage, a lot of men would be like, sign me up for that, because a lot of men can live in suffering for 12 years, 13 years, right?
yeah,
But if you just say, oh well, there's no, don't get married, a lot of men are going to miss out on those 10 years, on
mm,
those 11 years, on those
yeah,
7 years, right?
mhm,
I am about, and this is a route sometimes of where people disagree with me, but I am about personal happiness. I'm about you
facts,
maximizing your personal happiness. And I'm
facts,
not going to be PC about it. I'm not going to put a kid's happiness over yours. I'm not going to put your son's happiness over yours. I'm not.
mm,
I'm
mm,
not going to put your wife's happiness over yours. I'm
mm,
not. To be honest, to a large extent. I'm not going to put society's happiness over yours. I started my channel for you. I started my channel to maximize your happiness. And so when we think about marriage, we need to define what it is. A lot of times we'll enter into a marriage and we'll say, okay, a marriage is just what we've been told. That's BS. What you really need to do is sit down. It's really before you get a wife, but especially once you start dating someone seriously and think, okay, what exactly do I want my marriage to be? A lot of times you were born into this world, and then at some point you realize, if you're in the United States, you realize that there was this thing called a Bible. Let me tell you something about this Bible. This Bible was written before you were born. Like, you never had a say-so in any of those words. So you were born into a world where a Bible existed, and you are expected to abide by that. Now, we can talk about whether that's good or bad in terms of the Bible. I'm telling you, that's a bad way to do it in terms of your marriage. You need to think about, what is your marriage for you? What are the rules that will increase your happiness for your marriage? Make up your own damn marriage. I see this all the time in Atlanta. We've got athletes down here. We've got singers, entertainers. We've got everybody, businessmen, so many guys. You shout out to Kevin Samuels talking about exercising your options. A lot of times that's understood. And sometimes implicitly, but sometimes explicitly. People are marrying with their own rules. I don't know if you guys have been down here to Atlanta. Swinging is huge.
Yeah,
especially with the white folks, but even with the black folks, it is humongous. Go down to these swinging clubs, 80% married people. What are these married people doing? They're making their own rules. How can the red pill community say, "Oh, don't get married unless you want kids," and you go down to the swingers clubs and these people are having the time of their lives? Now the red pill community are like, "Oh, they're on some bullshit." Fine, fair enough. But maybe the people that you're talking to, some of them, a tiny proportion of them, might want to be in those communities. Maybe these men might want to create their own marriages. You don't hear anything about that, right? I want people, and I know you're not going to hear this anywhere but out of my mouth, right? But it's because, guys, when you guys think of marriages and divorces, you're looking at your own relationships. Maybe you're looking at the relationship of your brother, maybe the relationship, the marriage of your best friend, that guy down at the gym. Well, guess what? That's 4 damn relationships, 4 marriages that you're looking at. I've looked at countless marriages over really a career, 20 years. And I am seeing things on like a 30,000 foot view. And I see things so much differently than you guys, right? And so if you want to maximize your happiness, you can absolutely do that through a marriage. Your marriage doesn't have to look like the typical marriage. For example, MTandR, shout out to him. I had a stream with him and Mr. Locario, and they were kind of debating this marriage thing. Anton is married, right?
Sorry, I remember that stream. I was rolling in that stream. Keep going.
It's crazy. Anton was married. He got married at 22. He's been married for 17 years. And very successful marriage. He's always bigging up his wife. He just went down to the Porsche dealership, bought his and her Porsches for him and his wife. Loves his wife tremendously. She's the same way. Now Mr. Locario is also married. Guess what? Mr. Locario's, yes, his wife has a girlfriend. No, his wife has a boyfriend. Not only is it a boyfriend, it's a boyfriend that she's been with for over a year. Like, imagine that. Now, before you call Mr. Locario a simp, Mr. Locario has girlfriends, right? So I guess that evens it out.
I just don't understand why get married in that situation.
Listen, but that's the thing, though. That's the thing. Why not just create? Like, you can say, "Oh, well, I don't like escargot," right? Why would anybody want to eat a damn snail? I feel you. But there are a certain percentage of human beings that like eating snail, right? To some of us, it would make us sick. Some of us might get food poisoning off of it. Some of us love it, right? Why tell everybody on earth, "No, don't eat snails, it'll make you sick," or "It's not good for you," right? Listen, being married to the wrong person can cost you almost everything. There are people who were here on Tuesday, they got divorced on Wednesday, and now they're not here on Thursday. right? They decided that, they went to the gun store and they said, I don't want to live anymore, right? A divorce, a bad divorce can cost you everything, right? Having said that, that's them. What about you? I want you to know the cost and the benefits of a marriage. The fact that you can make your own marriage. You can create it. I was not thinking about this when I got married. Right? With 5 years really doing hardcore divorces and just in this Disneyland thing. But now with 15 more years under my belt, I'm starting to see the whole damn thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. So really, if people want to say this whole rigid, kind of like the straight jacket type of marriage, you shouldn't necessarily get into that. I feel that because most people it's going to be too constraining, right? And they're just going to be trying to follow some rules that were in place before they were even born, and it's not going to fit, right? Shout out to me, right? These are custom made suits. I'm 6'3" at 225. I can't buy a suit off, right? Guys, you should construct your marriage, the entire thing, when you enter into it, how you guys are going to act during it, what it's going to look like going out. I'm telling you, if you take these steps, a marriage can be so beautiful, so beneficial. Now, you have to find the right woman who's going to agree with your construction. And then you have to be lucky. You can be unlucky and things don't go right, 7 years down the line, 10 years down the line. And that might be where you have to use your exit strategy. But because you have an exit strategy that you yourself have crafted, it's not a bad way. Listen. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say that the concept of constructing your marriage, it's I got a stew on that phrase because initially, like what a lot of people are scared about is the switch up. Right. And I think like, as men, we got to do what we have to do in order to make sure that their actions match the words. Right. I think a lot of dudes will let certain key indicators and red flags go completely over their head or just completely miss it. And then they wonder why, when they get a year or two into a marriage, they're like, well, I never saw this coming. It's like, my G, are you sure? Like, I'm pretty sure that you did, but you just chose to ignore them. But outside of all of that, I think what a lot of people are also scared of is a potential switch up, right? So when I think of like in your situation of 100% provision versus 0% provision, from a fiduciary, from a financial perspective, right? It doesn't mean that she wasn't doing things at home to maintain the household. I think that and like we're taking prenup out of it for a quick second, because I think like even now, like you talking about the benefits of a prenup, because there was a lot of juju information that was going around like in respect to a prenup. But even still, right, like wouldn't a young lady who, right, that you're in a marriage with, who, something goes wrong, right, she begins to respect you less for whatever the situation is, and then she decides to divorce you, right? Isn't there a financial incentive for her to carry out that divorce? Because again, you're bringing in 100% of the money, and then she's bringing in 0% of the money.
In my case, that's a good question. Was there a financial incentive for her to divorce me?
Yeah, because you're bringing in 100%. Like, let's say if you didn't have a prenup, right? And I'm not sure of your situation, but let's say that you didn't, and most marriages, they don't have prenups. But wouldn't there be a financial incentive? Because if she hadn't been working for the past 6 years, she's essentially getting a pension plan via alimony.
Here's the thing. You kind of have to weigh it, right? You kind of have to weigh it because a woman can get taken care of for her whole life by the right dude and not have to work at all. Or a woman can cash out and then try to do something with the money, but then run the risk that she will never meet a man who will take care of her, like the first guy. So, for example, my ex, Shout out, shout out to her, man. She's been in this on and off relationship with this dude he's always getting drunk and getting beat up in the clubs. And
Damn.
I mean, it's
It
hard.
sounds like she downgraded, my brother.
Well, like it really wasn't her fault. That's the thing. I divorced her, and so, but I had her accustomed to operating a certain way in the relationship, and then guess what? You talk about the change up. I've changed it up.
Well, she was getting the benefits of masculinity and then none of the cons of masculinity.
Correct.
Right.
And then I changed it up by starting to, right? So you talk about women changing it up, men can change it up too. Men can like, you know what? I'm fucking fed up.
Yeah.
And then the woman was like, what are you talking about? We've been doing it this way for 6 years. I'm changing it up. Right? Yep. Men can change it up too. Mm-hmm. And, so I don't hold it against women to change it up if men can change it up too. Like, guys, listen. And I don't even know how far we want to get into this, but like, I am really about people in you specific, not you specifically, but men, optimizing their well, let me just answer the very first point first. Do women have a financial incentive to cash out? Sometimes. Absolutely. You did a video on the tech lead.
Yes.
Right. And the tech lead, he was an ex-Google, ex-Facebook engineer. And he was making a ton of money on his professional time and then in his off time. And they had one child and his wife didn't work. And he was just making gobs and gobs and gobs of that Silicon Valley money. Right. Now, she had enough. He was so big that she had enough to cash out and maybe not worry about working for the rest of her life. Yeah. Right? That was not the agreement that me and my ex reached. All right. She had some money, but she was going to have to either find another man or go to work. And so, each woman has to look at her man and be like, should I cash out now or should I just ride the wave for the rest of my life? A guy can treat a woman so good, it kind of doesn't make sense. Bill Cosby. Is Camille really going anywhere? Where the hell would Camille go?
Nowhere.
She's gonna go out on 10. You want Camille to be on Bumble?
Hell no.
Right?
No, she good.
Exactly. Yeah. Heaven forbid, LeBron James' wife, why not stay? Shout out to, rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. Where is she gonna go? She's already got these kids. She could be rich, right? She's gonna have some money if she cashes out. But the lifestyle that she can live when she's with the generator is even exactly. Women aren't stupid. Some women are, but women can look at money. Women can look at money. Don't ever think you might, shout out to Brittany Rayner. I'm not sure if she graduated high school. Is she stupid? You look at her videos and then you see she's stupid, but then you also look, she's getting tens of thousands of dollars in child support per month. Who's the stupid one?
Yeah.
Right?
Big true.
So, sometimes women do have an incentive to cash out, but sometimes they have the incentive just to hold on and to ride that horse out into the sunset.
Yeah.
I've seen it on both sides.
That's real. Well, listen, the buck's still out on me on the whole marriage thing, but I know what if I end up getting married, can you write my prenup for me?
I can absolutely get you a prenup. Absolutely. They're ironclad. Yeah, listen, I don't know. Somebody sent me today that Britney Spears is getting married. She was not allowed to get married because she was in this conservatorship. She wasn't even allowed to have a license, guys. She was in jail, to be honest. But now she's got this dude. And you know what all of her fans are saying? It's some younger, exotic looking dude. All of her fans are screaming, Brittany, get a prenup.
Yeah.
Right. And then he made it was her fans are screaming that so much. He had to make a post. He was like, oh, guys, don't worry. We're going to get an ironclad prenup. So she doesn't take my, shoe collection and old dirty couch or something like that. Cause he don't have anything. He don't got nothing. Right.
Yeah.
But prenups work, guys. They absolutely work. And if you do get the prenup, then there's no incentive for the woman to cash out.
Right.
She can't cash out. And even if you don't have a prenup, a lot of times it makes more financial sense for the woman just to hang on, which
Yeah.
is why you see all of these agreements and exercising of options,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's
Facts.
it's it's so it's so nuanced.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, TLA, we've taken so much of your time here today. I do want to get some questions from
Yes.
folks in. So we got a couple of folks that's down up in here. So I'll invite them up real quick. Hey guys, I left down in the inspiration channel the link to come up to the StreamYard. We'll take a couple of quick questions. Just make sure when you guys come up, we got a couple of folks that's down here. Ask the question, and we're gonna kind of move on from there. But also before we get started as well, TLA,
Mhm.
this has been a enlightening conversation, my brother, and I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to connect. We gotta figure out how to do this on a public on the public side as well eventually, my brother.
Yes, whenever you want.
Yes, sir. All right, let's bring some folks up. First up, my brother, Mr. Smart Money,
Hello, can you hear me?
loud and
Yes.
clear.
Hello, hello, Lee Attorney. It's an honor to be here listening to you. I've been taking a lot down and taking a lot of gems that you've been speaking about.
Oh, thank you so much.
No problem. I just wanted to get a quick question. So I am 25 years of age. I am
Okay.
a small Twitch streamer, growing slowly but surely. And my goal is like from either from like for 2 years or 3 years from now to be a successful Twitch streamer. I do believe in marriage due to my religion. I am Muslim. And my question is like, what is some tips that you can give a young person like me uh, on that? Because I don't plan on getting married to like about like probably like 30s in my 30s, so like 30, 35, something like that. And I'm probably when I get to that age, I'll probably be like pretty successful with my career and everything else. And I just want to make sure to put my best foot forward so that way I could just not eliminate all caution, but just put myself in the best position in a situation like if some worst case scenario happens, like a divorce or something like that comes in, and you know, I want to be in the best position if if worst case scenario happens. So, what is some tips that you can give someone like me?
Absolutely. I think this is a great question. I always want to be sensitive to the people who are getting married for religious reasons. A lot of the tips that I have will not apply to your situation necessarily. Some people don't even view being getting married as optional. Some people view it as kind of obligatory. So I want to respect that. A lot of times, people who are getting married for religious reasons already have a network from which their spouse is going to be chosen either by them or by their parents or some other aspect of the community. So a lot of the tips that I have will not apply to you. These are the tips and observations going into the entry of the marriage and even maintaining the marriage. Because if you are Muslim and you want to get married to a Muslim spouse, a Muslim wife, I have to be honest and tell you that I have no visibility on how Muslim marriages work. There's nothing for me it would be irresponsible for me to try to tell you advice about that just because I don't understand how a Muslim marriage should work based on the religious tenets. So the only advice I could give you would be, speaking to what MTR talks of in terms of the exit strategy, how to get out. I can't tell you how to get into it because you guys use so many networks, and I can't tell you how to maintain them because I don't know what a Muslim marriage looks like from personal experience. So, in terms of the exit strategy, your number one, really your best, and let's just be honest, maybe your only source of protection, which is good enough to be honest, is a prenup. You absolutely need a prenup. Prenups work. Now, what's a prenup? A prenup basically is just a contract, guys. It's just a contract that your attorney should draw up. And if I could just speak to you for 3 or 4 minutes, I can tell you how to get an ironclad prenup. You only need 4 things. It's not like you need a bullet point 17 point list of how to get a bulletproof prenup. It's not true. You only need 4 things. And I'm going to assume you're in the United States. I'm going to assume that. What's the first thing you need? You need an attorney. You really, need an attorney to draft your prenup. Some of you guys will cheap it out, of course. You know how we can be. and you will try to draft your own prenup, it'll probably get thrown out. I don't know what to tell you. Now, you'll hear in the red pill community that prenups get thrown out all the time. Now, that's not true, but do prenups get thrown out? Have there been prenups thrown out? Absolutely. But you can't stop there. You got to ask why. That's the one question. Whenever you hear anybody in the red pill community say prenups get thrown out, just ask them. Just say, okay, why? They won't be able to answer. Right? Oh, judges don't like them. That's BS. The reason they get thrown out depends on the individual prenup. So Steven Spielberg's prenup got thrown out, right? And he had to pay millions of dollars. People in the red pill community, oh, well, look at Steven Spielberg. Why did his prenup get thrown out? That's what you got to ask, right? Remember? You got to ask why. Oh, well, because he wrote it himself on a napkin. That's right. Your boy Steven Spielberg, he wrote his own prenup on a damn napkin. How is it not going to get thrown out? My prenups are 20 pages, right? So get your prenup drafted by an attorney, and a prenup is a contract. That's like you trying to remove your own spleen and you're a mechanic. Or that's like you trying to fix your own, motor, your own transmission, and you're a dentist, right? Get the person indicated for the job to do the dang job. And it's not like a prenup's going to cost you 15 grand. A great ironclad prenup can cost you 2,500, 3 grand. 3 grand is nothing in a divorce, guys. It's nothing to pay 30 grand in a divorce. So just pay 10% and you don't have to worry about paying the 90%. Now, if you want the gold standard, get your prenup drafted by 2 attorneys, one attorney that represents you and then another attorney to represent your spouse. Why? Because if I get married and then let's say Michelle is my wife, and then she divorces me, what is she going to say? She said, oh, well, the lead attorney had an attorney and his attorney drew up the prenup and then he just gave it to me. But, I've only got a high school education and I didn't read it. I got some college, an associate's degree, and I didn't really read it and I didn't understand it. And it was all these legal terms and all these legalese. Shout out to Hex GP. I was going to make that joke, but I just let it slide. I didn't understand it. So there are some judges that'll be like, hey, the balance of power was too unfair. The lead attorney is an attorney. The lead attorney had an attorney, and Lord Michelle didn't have an attorney. So because of the balance of power, I'm going to throw it out. But if Lauren had gotten her own prenup, her own attorney, what would that attorney have done? The attorney would have negotiated with my attorney. So it would the contents of the prenup would have her interests represented in it. Then Lauren's attorney would have read the prenup to her, page by page, paragraph by paragraph, clause by clause. How does that help you? Well, now Lauren can't come back and say, oh, I never read it. Your attorney read it to you. Oh, I didn't understand it. Your attorney explained it to you. Now she doesn't have a leg to stand on. Right? So at least get one attorney to draft your prenup, but get 2. That's the gold standard. Attorneys are not going to put in the BS that you guys try to put in that gets your prenups tossed out. Right? Some of you guys will say, oh, well, my friend's prenup got thrown out, but you won't ask why. But if you asked why, what would he say? Oh, well, because I wrote it myself and I put in there that, if she cheats on me, then I get custody of the kids. No judge on earth is going to grant that. There's no title to kids. There's a title to cars. There's a deed to a house. You can't transfer title to kids. Kids are human beings. You can't write in a contract who's going to get title to your kids. Of course it's going to get thrown out. Or you'll say, okay, well, if I decide to divorce my wife, then she can keep the kids, but I don't have to pay any child support. An attorney's not going to put that BS in there. You guys try to be slick. You guys will put in there, oh, my wife can never weigh over 160 pounds. Now she's 180, so she doesn't get anything. Yeah, listen, MTR.
I can't put that one in there.
You can't put that in there.
God damn it. What do you mean?
Shit. Well, what goes in there, right?
Can you put anything in there?
That is exactly right. So get an attorney knows what you can put in there and what you can't. So get one attorney, and the gold standard is to get 2 attorneys. What's the second thing? Guys, even if you have, let's say you opt for the one attorney. Let's say you opt for me, the lead attorney, and I draft a 20-page prenup. and I give it to you, right? And I tell you what to do with it, but you don't listen. So you don't give it, you don't give it to her to sign. You kind of sit there and wait on it. Now, guess what? Now it's the wedding day. You're standing there at the altar. You're outside, beautiful sun. You're out there on the lawn. Your fiance, your bride's parents are there. They flew in from Chicago, right? All the bridesmaids flew in. They all got their matching dresses. They got the shoes. They got the hair, all the makeup, all of the costs associated with that. You got the reception hall waiting for you, all of the food. The flowers alone cost $7,000, right? All the hotel rooms that everybody booked to come in to see your wedding. And you're standing there, the little 6-year-old girl's about to run out with the damn pillow and the rings. And then what do? You whisper to her, hey, baby, listen, sign this 20-page document right quick. And she's standing there, she lifts up her veil like, what? Sign it right quick. What is it? It's the prenup. What do you mean a prenup? The pastor's right here. Just sign it right quick. She's like, I can't sign this. And what do you say? You say, oh, okay, well, if you don't sign it, the wedding's off. You say the wedding's off after you paid $30,000 and her family's there, her friends are there. That's what you guys do. You try to trick them. you try to put pressure on them. Well, guess what's going to happen? She's going to be there. She's going to be crying the mascara, and she's going to sign your damn 20-page prenup. Yeah. But watch what happens in 7 years. Watch what happens in 7 years when she gets it thrown out. And then you're going to lose half your stuff. You're going to be crying to the red pill community talking about prenups don't work. No, I drafted an ironclad prenup. I explained it. What did I tell you to do with it? I told you to give it to her 6 months before your wedding. 6 months before your wedding, give it to her. That way, if you see in 3 months she hasn't signed it, you don't have to go through the rigmarole of putting down more money and outlays. You already know what the deal is. But you didn't do that. You were scared of your woman. So many of you are scared of your own women. And you don't want to ask her straight away about the prenup. You kind of want to force her into it. Well, the judge is going to see that. Men saw Derrick Jackson. Like women didn't see it. Men saw it on day one. We all knew he was pandering. Judges are going to see you like men see Jerry Jackson. You waited 3 days before the wedding to give her this 20-page document. She didn't have time to get an attorney and she signed it. The judge saw you going and coming. He's going to throw it out. He can absolutely throw it out, and it'll be your fault because I drafted you an excellent prenup and you ruined it because you were too scared to give it to her when she had time to think about it, when she had time to give it reviewed. So that's the second thing, guys. The gold standard, give it to her 6 months before the wedding. Now, there might be someone in the chat who's going to get married in 4 months. And you say, oh, well, lead attorney, is it too late? No. Get on it, right? I'm just telling you, the closer it gets to the wedding date, the more likely it is to get thrown out. If you can get her to sign in 4 months, you're still good. But, if you start pressing her with, we already put down the deposit on this, we're going to lose the deposit on that. Your parents already paid for the Delta airline tickets into Hartsfield Jackson. Once finances start becoming a decision-making consideration, you're screwed. You're screwed, right? So do not allow her to say, I signed this under duress. Give it to her at least 6 months before the wedding gold standard. Third, some of you guys, man, you're sneaky. You're sneaky.
TLA. Listen.
In a prenup, you have to list out all of your assets. Some of you are going to put your bank account and you're going to leave out your savings. You're going to leave out your savings account. Some of you are going to put down your checking and your savings, but you're going to fail to mention that retirement thing you got, your little 401k. Some of you got some Bitcoin. Some of you guys you're leaving out your Ethereum. You think your wife doesn't know anything about that wallet. Well, if you leave something out of your financial disclosure, Malcolm's breaking it down. Don't even talk about the offshore accounts, right? that Gulf Shore trust that everybody's trying to pile money into. He's exactly right. Put all your money in that account, that offshore account, put all that money in that blind hidden trust. If it ever comes out, your wife can reopen the divorce and get all of it, not just half, get all of it. The judge can punish you for lying. Absolutely, a judge will throw your prenup out for fraud. right? You were lying. You said that these were all of your assets and they weren't. So guys, and like this and the last one kind of go hand in hand. What's the last one? Now this is kind of where it gets a little squishy, right? But you kind of got to be fair. Some of you guys, you'll want to get married and you'll write in there, okay, well, if we're married 20 years and you divorce me, you leave with $17. You're asking for the judge to be like, okay, you're trying to punish her. You're being punitive. I'm going to throw it out. $17 after 20 years, right? Now, here's the thing. Is it bad that you want to give your wife $17 after 20 years of marriage if she divorces you? Is that bad? That's not bad. The bad part is you deciding to marry her. There's no problem with you only wanting to give a specific woman $17 after 20 years of marriage. That is just a mere reflection on how you feel about this person. You might not like her enough to want to take care of her, to give her half. You don't like her that much. You're kind of looking at her and you've seen some things while y'all were dating. You've seen some things where y'all were engaged where you think, well, if she divorces me after 20 years, she only deserves $17. Fair enough. Stay with her for 20 years. Just don't marry her. Guys, you don't have to get married. Right? No one's forcing you to get married. But if you try to have your cake and eat it too, if you try to marry this woman and then at the same time try to punish her by giving her $17, the judge is going to call you out on it. And the judge can absolutely throw your prenup out. Right. So not to get too deep into prenups, but there's only 4 things, guys. Listen, get it drafted at least by 1 attorney. Gold standard is 2. All right. Get it drafted by someone competent, reviewed by someone competent. Don't spring it on your wife. Give it to her 6 months before the wedding. Number 3, disclose everything. Disclose the savings account, disclose the pension, disclose the Ethereum, right? And then number 4, just be somewhat fair, guys. Just be somewhat fair. If you can do that, you will have an ironclad prenup that will hold up every single time.
Hey, TLA, in your time in representing women, do you ask those 4 questions if there's a prenup that she has first?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are times where we try to defeat a prenup. And they're very hard to defeat, especially the prenups who were drafted by women. Sometimes you just got a drafted by an attorney, sorry, if you're representing a woman. You try it anyway, because it might cost the woman $15,000 to try to defeat the prenup. But if you win, she could get $500,000. So she's risking $15,000 to get $500,000. A woman will do that every time. You see that with Dr. Dre's prenup, right? I think they go to court on his prenup in January. His prenup seems pretty ironclad. Now, he did allegedly rip it up and throw it in the fire and try to say, that's what the woman's trying to say, right? But the prenup said you couldn't do that. The prenup said that if you ripped it up and threw it in the fire, that still doesn't negate the prenup. The prenup said it could only be negated. It could only be revised or modified through another writing. So the woman really didn't have a leg to stand on, but she has to try something, because if the judge rules in her favor, she gets like $1 billion or she gets $500 million. So she's going to try. And so a lot of times we try, but then sometimes we don't even, sometimes the women are like, they need the $15,000. Like they will risk it if they have a good shot, but most of the times you just don't have a good shot. Now, there are times when you come in and you see the prenup and it's like handwritten on manila paper, like that yellow legal paper, and you're like, oh, okay, now we got something. But usually the prenups are drafted. The prenups that I see are usually drafted by attorneys, and so they're hard to get around. Usually we try to negotiate them a little bit, say, okay, what if we do this? What if we do that? Try to modify it a little bit. But if we can't reach an agreement, the judge is just going to follow the prenup.
Yep. All right. Well, awesome. So let's get to the next question. Shout out to Agent. What's up, brother? You're muted. All right. He may not be ready. Let's get him down in there. Hex. What's up, brother?
Greetings.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, greetings, lead attorney. It's an honor having you here.
Thank you so much.
I have a lot of questions, but I know there's other people waiting, so I'll try and keep it simple. But
Okay.
I'm
And before
very
you ask your question, I really should have said this too. All this stuff is just information, guys, but none of this should be taken as legal advice. Okay. But yeah, what do you got for me?
so I'm not. I'm from Africa. I'm from Tanzania. So I have a few questions, but one of the questions is, if I was born, let's say, if I got married back
Mhm.
home, and then I moved to the United States while I was married, can I still do a prenup or some kind of postnup, I guess you could say? And another thing is, what about
Wait,
like
wait,
when?
wait, wait.
Oh, sorry.
We need to do one question at a time. Okay.
Sure thing. Sure thing.
So you got married in where? In
Ta
Nigeria? Tanzania?
Tanzania, Tanzania.
And then you come to the United States
Yes. And
and
then
you're uh-huh.
what if, can I still do a form of a prenup, like a postnup?
Yes. Well, the difference, and just like you indicated, the difference between a prenup and a postnup, pre just means before and post means after, right? So
Hmm.
prenup, you draft before the marriage, and a postnup is signed after the marriage. It's drafted after the marriage. If you get married basically anywhere in the world and then you come to reside in the United States, you can absolutely draft a postnup, and postnups are as solid as prenups.
Let's see. And the last question is, when it comes to child support, for instance,
Mhm.
this is of course your opinion if you want. Do you think it should be abolished, or it should be kind of like 50-50, like I think you mentioned before? And if you do think it should be applied, or if it should be abolished, then at what point, where do you think it makes sense to apply child support, if that makes any sense? Maybe I could rephrase the question.
No, I hear what you're saying. Abolish is too strong of a word, but I kind of feel kind of there, right? I think the child support system should have a major overhaul, but that's because I think the custody situation should have a major overhaul. In this country, it's still the fact that judges just routinely give moms custody, and dads either have to accept visitation or they have to try to fight for 50-50 custody. There are the times here and there where a dad can win custody, but usually that's because the mom is either on meth or she's, in prison or she's passed away. Let's be honest. Or, she's sexually touching the kids, like something crazy.
Mhm.
So judges routinely give child support, routinely give custody to the moms, and then child support flows through that. I would change the child support by changing the custody. I would insist that judges have a default 50-50 physical custody view. What does that mean? That means when the husband comes in and the wife comes in, before they open their mouth, I say, listen, I'm the judge in this, and this is what I'm feeling for your divorce case. I see in the paperwork you got 2 kids. I'm thinking 50-50. All right. Now, we can have this trial and I can listen to all the stuff you're going to say bad about her and all the stuff you're going to say bad about him. But I'm thinking 50-50. And at the end of the trial, if I don't hear anything crazy, it's still going to be 50-50. Because it's going to be 50-50, there's going to be no child support. Now, if one person is making $20,000 a month and one person is making, $1,000, can I try to do something here and there? Maybe I'll do a little something. But if the parties are making anywhere close to each other, there's no child support. You guys had these kids, you guys figure it out. And that's how I would do it. Now, there are going to be some women who say, oh, I don't want custody of my kids. I want to run off with the new man that I met. Or there are going to be some men who are going to say, listen, I am a military vet in Afghanistan. I can't have custody of my kids. I can't take my kids to Afghanistan. That's when that's when I would apply child support. When a person says that they don't want 50-50 custody, well, fine, you're going to pay, right? Because you're not just going to get out of obligation for your kids. Or when a person says, well, I don't want to quit my job. I work for Delta. I've been a pilot for 20 years. One day I'm in Singapore. 3 days later, I'm in Switzerland, right? I've got this great career. I can't have 50-50. Fine, where you're going to pay child support then. But typically in the regular case, there would be no child support because there would be 50-50 custody. So saying would I abolish child support is a little bit too strong because there are going to be women and men who in certain cases don't want 50-50 and they need to pay. But generally speaking, there's going to be no child support because generally speaking, it's going to be a 50-50 split on the physical custody.
I think that's a great approach. What do you think is holding us back from transitioning to something like that?
It's getting there. It's just getting, it's just like the tectonic plates, just move, like starting off at Pangea where everything was together and everything moves apart. In Atlanta, here in Georgia, they've proposed this bill that's supposedly floating around where judges are going to be forced to say that it's default 50-50 custody. Someone told me in Arizona, it's like that now. Every state is different, guys. It's not like all the states move in lockstep. Some states are more advanced than others. I'm down here in Georgia. We're in the South, so conservative. We're kind of, weed isn't even legal here. Okay, so we're going to be, so every state just kind of moves at its own pace, but it is moving there. Maybe in 15 years, a quarter of the states will get there. Right? So it's just slow as hell.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of pushback, right? No one wants to say, oh, well, I'm going to propose legislation that's going to give kids less money. Because that's what's going to happen. You're going to say, no, I didn't say give the kids less money. I said, let's kind of relook at child support because we're going to no, you said modified child support. So now the kids are going to starve. You know how politics is. So it's hard to, because there's no nuance. No one's really listening. So it's hard to propose these things without getting politically canceled.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope because all you got to do is get at the surface level and into people's feelings, and then nothing will move. Right. Like it's just done. It's just a wrap, That's but exactly, I mean, it is what it is. It's the soundbite culture, that we exist in today. But it is what it is. Let me see. We've got one more question. Looks like. What's up, bro?
Is that me? Oh yeah, it is me.
Yes, sir.
MTR, can you change my name to Leon 008? It keeps on pulling up my old YouTube. But anyway, I have a question. I have a child on the way in 4 months, and let's say just saying our relationship doesn't work out. Is there any difference in rights to the child since I'm not married yet?
Oh yeah. Usually you have no rights. You don't have any rights. Usually if you are not married, and this is going to vary state by state, but usually if you're not married, an unwed father has zero rights to the child. Now you have obligations. You got to pay child support, but you don't have any visitation rights. You don't have any custody rights. You don't have anything. Usually once the child is born, they're going to hand you a pen and a pad and say, sign saying you're the daddy. Now they're going to give you some type of legitimation paperwork, some type of paternity paperwork where you're going to sign to say, this is your kid. You should never sign that. You should never sign those documents. Now, if you're a nice guy, you'll probably do it, but it's a stupid move because you don't even know if that's your kid or not. Now, most of the times it will be your kid, but not 100%. So what you need to insist on is a DNA test. You should never sign anything. And it doesn't sound like your relationship is all that great to begin with because you're talking to an attorney right now. So now you should definitely do a DNA test. And if it comes back that the kid is yours, well, fine, no problem. But you want to be sure, the tragedy would be you sign that paperwork and 3 years later, you look at that kid and you're like, you know what? This damn thing ain't mine. But, not only are you out the 3 years of support for that kid, but it could very well be that now if you've signed that and now that the child sees you as the father, a judge is not going to change it when you give him the paperwork, the DNA test that you got at 3 that says that there's a 0 probability that the child is yours. And you're going to flip out. You're going to want to maybe delete yourself because you see 15 more years of payments to a child that is not yours. And you cannot believe that the judge will throw out your DNA test, which shows clearly that you're not the judge, that you're not the father. But why did the judge throw it out? The judge is like, you had 3 years to bring this up, pimp. Oh, now you want to get a DNA test? When you could have got it at the hospital, when you could have got it when the child was like right there born at the hospital, you could have gotten a DNA test. You could have allowed this kid to think that someone else was the father, but you wanted to be the father. But now at 3, you want to rip that image from this child. Do you think that's in the best interest of the child? The judge is going to say, I don't think that's in the best interest of the child. And you're going to say, well, it's not in my best interest. And the judge, I don't give a fuck what's in your best interest. You're a man. This is a baby of tender years. right? Who are we going to prioritize? Your 32-year-old ass or the 6-month-old or the 3-year-old? It's going to be the 3-year-old every time.
Every time.
So you need to insist on a DNA test. After you get the DNA test and it comes back that it is your kid, then you can hire an attorney to do the necessary paperwork to legitimize or to file the paternity paperwork so that you have rights. Because right now you're going to have 0% rights when the child is born. Once you get those rights, then a judge can offer you some type of visitation plan. Now, it's not going to be a lot of visitation because, your child is going to be an infant, is going to be breastfeeding, and can't be away from the mom for too long. But it's going to increase over time. And so that's how you get the parenting time. That's how you get the visitation. That's how you get the possession, what they call it down there in Texas. I don't know where you're at, but that's how a father would generally go about getting rights to his child.
Yeah, I did a video not too long ago, and it was two groups, men and women, and they were going back and forth regarding paternity testing. And the question is around it being mandatory. And there's so many, I think the numbers were like, of those that were tested in this particular study, it was like 30% of those that were tested. Now, meanwhile, those that are getting tested already think that something's amiss. So it's not to say 30% of the public of the population may not be the pappy, but even at that amount, I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? It's absolutely ridiculous. So I think that was fantastic advice, sir. So thank you for talking to him.
No problem.
We got one more. Sup, Chris? All right, Chris wasn't ready.
Okay.
What up, BX Native?
Hey, BX Native, how are you doing? It's been my man BX Native. He's part of the Patreon over there. Okay, shout out to BX Native.
What's good, little Tony? How are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? It's so great to see you over here.
Yeah, I heard you're going to be on, so I had to pop through.
Thank you so much for supporting, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Got one quick question.
Yes, sir.
What can men do? Because the child care system is heavily favoring women. So what can men do to change the law? Because I heard you talk about now is more fair towards men than in the past, but they don't really apply those laws. Like they don't really follow them. But what can men do to help change the law to make it more equal and towards our favor?
Well, I'm not sure if now is more favorable than in the past for men. I think it's kind of the opposite. The situation is changing so much, but the laws aren't changing as much. So it's kind of the opposite. Women now have the leg up, not the men. Now, maybe you're referring to what MTR was, his question about, when is the law going to change? And I'm indicating that it's changing slowly, but it's still in favor of the woman. Now, you ask a question that I get all the time. You say, okay, well, what can we do to change it? Jesus. People say, oh, well, we can march on Washington. Or people say, oh, well, let's start a petition on petition.org. Or, let's call our our legislative representatives, right? All this social change. Let's do some grassroots campaign. You can do all that. Right. But, you could spend 10 years doing all that yourself, dedicate 10 years of your life and really not see much change at all. So when people ask me this, I know that their heart is in the right place and they want to see justice done. I don't really advocate for it, though. I advocate personal happiness. And I don't want to see you fall on your sword for 10 years for just a small amount of movement. What I would like is just for you to know the laws, how they are now, and then be able to move yourself and then let the legislature worry about the legislature. Let the judges worry about the judges. You say, well, leader attorney, if everybody takes that approach, then nothing will change. Maybe that's true. I don't really care. I just really care. If you are okay, I know this is a selfish thing, man, but this is how I feel. I just want you to be okay. I have seen, very few of you have seen the court system like I've seen it. And I remember how it was 20 years ago, and I don't see a substantial change. And I don't want you spending, 20 years of your life trying to get the change that we have gotten, since 20 years ago. I don't want you to do it. I just want you to be happy. So if you kind of follow what I'm saying and learn how to move in the framework that we already have. Should the framework change? Yes. It's easier just to learn how to navigate it yourself than to try to change the whole damn thing. Right? We're talking about state laws, various state laws. How are you going to change all of these state laws? Why don't you just learn how to navigate to the best of your ability within the existing laws? That's where I think the bread and butter of your happiness is going to be.
Right.
But it's a fair point. And I get it. I get this question all the time.
You know, TLA, I also think that maybe you're not doing yourself enough, giving yourself enough credence for the impact of just having your voice on these YouTube streets and what that may be able to do from a legislative perspective as well. Maybe not directly impact, but it's impacting the minds of so many people to understand that this is what's happening. These are the issues. And these are the things that you have to do in order to make your life more happy. But now we are up to date and up to speed of what is happening, right? So like, I actually think what is more impactful is YouTube if you compare it to marching in front of a government office. I actually think this right here is the start of something so tremendously big. And, you know, to think that we are at the beginning point of what all of this is, you know, and to share the YouTube circle with you, you know, it's an absolute privilege. You dropped so many gems here today, so many gems, so much dope information. And just like I said, and we both kind of mirror it in that we both kind of realize that, you know, this avenue is, you know, because you get pooped on from time to time when it comes to people like, get a real job. You're on YouTube, like, but like, but what
I'm retiring though. It's like that's the thing. I've just been fighting for so long. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But you know, but to think that now we have this particular thing that we do that can impact the lives of so many people, and you know, our legacy can be without, you know, through them, because they're making their decisions based off of that, all the way to, you never know, in a couple of years, there might be enough people that's down up in here to realize the plight of the average man and what he is going to and how this thing is unfair. And then you get those that were previously detractors, but now are influenced by this information, and that'll start to get the ball and or the needle moving. So real quick, I just want to say thank you again. Go ahead, brother. I don't know if you want to
respond though, because you know I never thought about it that way, and it's so interesting talking to you because number one, you're so influential on YouTube, so you understand the power of it way better than me, and so this is what it's showing me. But then it might be also showing me my age, because I went to damn doing marches and shit, and you're like, no man, we got the internet now, right?
The revolution will be televised.
That's exactly right. So you got the young bucks showing the old bucks, hey, you know, listen, we ain't doing marches no more.
We ain't doing those no more. No, it's too hot outside. We're too
So
entitled.
your point, I never considered it, but you're absolutely right. I just never considered that point, but it's super well taken, man. You're teaching me.
Listen, brother, I don't want to take any more of your time. This has been an amazing experience. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. You are welcome to come back whenever. You're already in the Discord, but I know you have your own to manage now as well. You're gonna see like it becomes a 24/7 thing at that point. But shout out again to all of the members that came in and came through, and shout out to everyone that came up and asked the question. And you know, last but not least, TLA, thank you so much as well for coming in and answering these brothers' questions as well as mine.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. You know, it's hard for me to tell you, someone with 50, 60 subscribers, 50, 60,000, and then to get to talk to someone on your level, you know, it's just humbling. So I really appreciate you having me over here.
Listen, and anything you need from me, my brother, I got you. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. All right, now, well, thank you so much again, brother. I'm getting some questions in here. So, but anyway, thank you so much again, brother. We'll chat soon. All right.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. Peace.
All right.